All right, NFL Blitz. Brandon Aiyuk was back watching 49ers practice, and the Patriots have traded their edge rusher Matthew Judon to the Falcons for a third-round pick. A lot happening, so I pulled off of 101, headed over to Stanford on my way back to the city. That's where I'm at right now. Had a really good Fambrini's chimichurri surf and turf sandwich to fuel the show, fuel the NFL Blitz. Judon to the Atlanta Falcons. Low-key a good deal for the Falcons if Judon, who turns 32 tomorrow, can stay healthy following the biceps tear that sidelined him for most of last season. But this is a guy who was up around 13, 14, 15 sacks for the 2 seasons prior to that. It doesn't seem like player prices have been very high on the trade market over the course of this offseason. Definitely less than a few years ago. Remember, DeForest Buckner went to the Indianapolis Colts. The 49ers were able to get a first-round pick, a high first-round pick in the top half of that round for a defensive tackle. Players definitely not going for as much on the trade market these days, which also, when you look at the potential return the 49ers might have gotten from the Cleveland Browns for Brandon Aiyuk, that underscores that probably was a good value deal on the table for the 49ers. Now it's a moot point because Aiyuk didn't agree to a reworked contract, and I'm guessing Judon is going to have to rework his contract with the Atlanta Falcons. But even though it was a moot point, the 49ers and the Browns seem to have something that was a fairly large return for Brandon Aiyuk on the table. I think it was Amari Cooper, a second-round pick, and a fifth-round pick. Compare that to Matthew Judon, older player, turns 32 tomorrow. Only a third-round pick coming over from the Atlanta Falcons. So if he can stay healthy and be, 80% of the player that he was in the past before the biceps tear, I think it could be a decent deal for the Atlanta Falcons. Today was day 15 of 49ers training camp, and they're out there looking sloppy early on offensively. I mentioned that, but then they looked a whole lot better later on. Of course, Aiyuk was at practice. It looked like he was watching intently. It looked like he was an invested member of the team. Not the only one with that take. I think that Cam Inman said the same thing. He was wearing red too. First time he's worn red, George Kittle pointed out, of training camp. So take that for what it's worth. With Aiyuk, it's always interesting when the 49ers struggle offensively at these practices. And I'm not saying that it's been a common theme, but whenever they do have period of practice where it's ugly, as it was during the first period today, you inevitably say, well, two of their best offensive players are currently not practicing, in Brandon Aiyuk and Trent Williams. They don't seem overly worried about the Trent Williams situation. The Aiyuk one has obviously caused more ripple effects, and people are wondering, okay, where is the 49ers price limit? Because obviously they're coming up on that salary cap limit. They want to make sure that they execute this deal sustainably so that they could sign other players later on. So there are questions about what the 49ers will do given what Brandon Aiyuk is asking, even though they do have ultimate leverage of forcing him to play on the fifth-year option. But in simple football terms, when you see the team practice and they do struggle for a period of time offensively, you always go back and think, okay, how would things be different if Brandon Aiyuk were on the football field? And Trent Williams as well. I can go through some of the struggles offensively today. A couple low snaps, and this is something independent of Aiyuk and independent of Trent Williams. This is something that Jake Brendel has got to get down. We saw quite a few low snaps over the course of last season. Those cannot happen because they interrupt timing, right? So if the snap is something that Brock Purdy's having to pick up off the ground or off the top of his shoes, it's going to hurt the timing on some of the quick game the 49ers execute. The low snap also indicates that the center may not be firmly in position, and maybe the interior offensive line is going to be a little bit compromised. Remember, interior line, that was a struggle on the very first play of the preseason for the 49ers. They might not have been expecting an A-gap blitz from the Tennessee Titans, but they got one, and Aaron Banks, upon review of the film, he didn't trip. He just got steamrolled by the defensive tackle, Sebastian Joseph Day, on the play, the former, I'll say it, 49ers legend, Sebastian Joseph Day on the play. So interior line play has got to be better. That's why the emergence of Dominic Pooney is a really big deal for the 49ers. Brock Purdy threw one high to Jordan Mason, who was the outlet receiver on the play. It was a dangerous throw. That wasn't good. He was pressured on the play, but That has to be better. Lucky it wasn't intercepted. And then there was a play then this is kind of good news for the 49ers, because Tay Martin, who's a wide receiver, was being covered by Devondre Campbell, the 31-year-old linebacker, was running out to the sideline, and Campbell was keeping up stride for stride with Devondre Campbell, and he almost intercepted the throw from Brock Purdy. But I think on that case, you got to tip your cap to Devondre Campbell, a linebacker who struggled in pass coverage for the Packers last year, but in 2021, which is not that long ago, was an All-Pro. That's twice now I've called Devondre Campbell's name this training camp for blanketing a player who theoretically should be much faster than him. It was Christian McCaffrey a couple weeks ago down the sideline on the wheel, and then he was able to stay with Tay Martin today for the pass breakup. So nice play from Devondre, but the offense was struggling at that point. And then there was that ugly, it was a reverse flea flicker. First they went to Deebo Samuel running right, pitch back to Jennings, who Juwan Jennings was supposed to pitch back to Brock Purdy for the throw, but Nick Bosa and Javon Hargrave were both living in the backfield at that point. It pitched tents in the backfield. And speaking of a pitch, the pitch to Brock Purdy went over his head. Would have made a blooper reel is what I wrote up on The Athletic had that been an actual game. So the offense didn't look good there. Would Trent Williams have helped? Yeah, well, I think that maybe Nick Bosa and Javon Hargrave both being in the backfield on the trick play would have been less likely. Aiyuk, I mean, with him, a lot of it's energy. George Kittle talked about how much he loves BA's energy today when he's out on the field. He does bring a vicious style of play that I think helps the 49ers. But a lot of it's also spacing. His ability to beat man coverage, the threat of him beating man coverage, the threat of him winning deep, I think theoretically opens up a lot of stuff, creates some breathing room for the offense. So it's hard to say, okay, this particular play, Brandon Aiyuk would have made a huge difference. But in general, he's part of the larger group of 49ers receivers, the totality of what they have at the position. And because of that, when he's not out there, I think they're missing him in that regard. Other guys the 49ers were missing today, Mitch Wishnowsky still has the knee soreness. Braden Willis out of practice. He was sore following the preseason game against the Titans. Ricky Pearsall dealing with the shoulder. We've seen him off on the side a couple times now at practice. Ambry Thomas undergoing surgery for the broken forearm. Isaac Yiadom, a few more days with the ankle. Christian McCaffrey, I would say a return to practice is likely maybe in a week or so. I think he's been out for a week now with the calf strain. Elijah Mitchell, that's a hamstring strain. I would expect him back shortly. I think they only expected a week total with Elijah Mitchell. Patrick Taylor Jr., undisclosed injury for one of the 49ers running backs. Isaac Guerendo, we're going to recheck on him in a couple days when Shanahan speaks next. It's already been a few weeks, and they said it's going to be a few weeks with Isaac Guerendo's hamstring injury. John Feliciano, currently week to week with knee irritation. That's opened the door firmly for Dominic Pooney. Spencer Burford, broken hand. Maybe we see him within the course of the next couple weeks with a club on that hand. Ben Barch, undisclosed injury, and Kalia Davis. Kalia's going to be out for about half the season with the knee injury that requires surgery. His replacement, Nick Williams, was at practice today running through the sled drill with Chris Kocurek, a veteran, played under Brandon Staley a couple times. Explosive guy, but he's older. He's 34 years old. Tomorrow's going to be the big day for Talanoa Hufanga. Doctor's visit. And if that goes well, Shanahan said there's a chance that Hufanga is going to be back out on the practice field for the 49ers in not too long. Catches today for Eric Saubert and Juwan Jennings. Cody Schrader, the rookie, made a nice catch in the red zone for a touchdown. And that's what happened at 49ers practice. The offense looked a lot better after it looked bad at the start. But that's what Brandon Aiyuk watched. So he saw everything. He saw the bad start, and then he saw the struggles for the 49ers. The struggles at the start, and then he saw the better play for the 49ers a little bit later on. Tonight, make sure you tune in. We're going to have a live. I'm going to go through all of the 49ers dealings with Brandon Aiyuk. We're going to go through a timeline, both of today and of the past 2 weeks, because we hadn't seen him out on the field since July 31st, and it's now August 14th. So I guess that makes this an NFL update and a 49ers update. An NFL Blitz and a 49ers update. Judon traded. The price for players isn't that high, which means the 49ers probably are incentivized to hold on to Brandon Aiyuk even more. Judon is now a Falcon, and the 49ers, well, Brandon Aiyuk is still a 49er. We'll talk to you guys soon. The update from Stanford with a chimichurri surf and turf sandwich from Fambrini's in Palo Alto is over. See you soon.